Good morning, everybody. Today is Monday, November 5th, 2018. This is MMA Junkie Radio's pre-show, the show before the show. Do you guys have Instagram alerts on certain people when they post?
No.
All right. That's all
I didn't even know that was a thing. I just told it that I don't want to get notifications in general from Instagram. I just like to go on Instagram with a clean slate and be like, oh, look, a bunch of people like the picture. Like, it's like a surprise every time you go on Instagram.
I mean, yeah.
I don't want to sound weird, so I'm going to ask George and see if maybe he's done it. But I thought, you don't have like your favorites where if they post something you want to know? George, on Instagram, do you have anybody where if they post something, it sends you a direct thing to let you know this person? No? Huh.
Is that a new feature?
No.
See, I wasn't even going the mean route. I didn't know that was a feature either. That's what I said. I followed mine up with, I didn't even know that was a feature.
Is it a feature?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I didn't either.
So it's like lists, kind of?
It just tells you it's an alert. It pops up on the phone and it says like Mauro Ranallo has posted a picture.
He actually just sent me a text message, said to say hello. Or, sorry, a DM on Twitter.
When?
Coming up in a minute.
Like this morning.
Oh.
Wait a minute. Fool never answered me.
He was responding to a message that I sent a while back, and he goes, I'm sorry it took so long. Hope you and your brother are well.
Yeah, I just saw this. Okay.
And I said, I haven't even replied. Just may have even been around the time of the bike Polar Rock and Roller. Who knows?
I sent him one yesterday.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just out of the blue. I was talking to a friend. I mentioned him. Remember, we're on the pre-show, so let's not all say some things.
Coming up at 30.
And so I wrote him a little message.
How's Dan Tom's weekend?
Good.
Is that cast coming off soon? I think you said November?
Yeah, next week. I think next Monday. So hopefully a week from today.
Dan Tom can't wait?
I can't
I
wait.
hear the
Yeah.
sound again. That sound
My
Yeah, it's that laptop.
coming up. Stand by.
yeah, I definitely can't wait.
This is your captain speaking. We are making our descent into Las Vegas McCarran Airport. On behalf of our crew, we'd like to thank you for flying MMA Junkie Airlines. Now please fasten your seatbelts and put your tray tables in your upright position because the descent is going to be a little bit bumpy.
Alright, Junkie Nation, it's time to roll, baby, on MMA Junkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Gold. This is what we do and why we do it, baby. All night long, we rollin'! Yeah!
The MMA Junkie Radio revolution is upon us.
Can you dig it?
There's no escape. No escape. Through the vast frontier of cyberspace and through a sea of stars in outer space.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
We've solidified our combat communications stranglehold.
We are controlling transmission.
With the use of MMA Junkie Radio and SiriusXM satellite radio technology. MMA Junkie Radio. Commence transmission. Live from MMA Junkie Radio HQ in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. Here are your hosts, Gorgeous George and Goes.
From the fight capital of the world, inside the beautiful Mandalay Bay Racing Sportsbook, you're listening to the MMA Junkie Radio Show, the only show that matters. I'm your host, Gorgeous George. With me, as always, is the devious and dastardly Goes. Ari's co-host. To my left, it's the fight analyst, Dan Tom, back east. Handling all the producing duties like he always does, it's Danny Otto. What's up, guys? Happy Monday.
Happy Monday, everybody.
Happy Monday.
Yeah.
I'm in a good mood today. How about you guys?
I am, too. Coming off a big weekend, man. UFC 230. I'm ready to dive in. And by the way, one of our guests today is from that card, Daniel Cormier. He'll join us in the second hour. Dustin Poirier, who is one of the most exciting fighters on the planet. He will join us in the second hour as well. A couple Louisiana boys. So it should be a fun show on that front. First 90 minutes are wide open for us to discuss UFC 230 and everything that transpired this past weekend. Hopefully I get 30 seconds just to brag about the 5-0 that GG went.
Oh, you got it?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, until Sunday when the Lakers lost. But
what? I thought you were 4-0.
Oh, no. Well, that's a different thing. Yeah, my parlay's 4-0.
Oh, okay.
And I need Tennessee tonight plus 4.5 to go 5-0 in the NFL for the second week in a row. But now I was talking about the 49ers on Thursday. Mater Dei High School on Friday won their playoff game.
Mm-hmm.
Saturday morning, Manchester United won their game. And then Saturday night, both USC and the Lakers won. In fact, so did the Vegas Golden Knights. So when I woke up on Sunday,
that's never
I was like,
to me.
nothing can happen that'll be bad to me today, except I forgot the Lakers had a back-to-back, and they got squashed by Toronto. All right. Talking about mixed martial arts, Daniel Cormier defended his UFC heavyweight title against Derek Lewis. He submitted him in the second round via a rear naked choke, and that capped off what I felt was a fun night of fights. But staying on point, React goes to Daniel Cormier defending his title for the first time, the heavyweight title, versus the Black Beast.
He did something that I didn't think he was going to be able to do, and that's take a few shots from Derek. I thought the second Derek touched him, it was just going to be too much. I mean,
really?
Yeah, man.
Why is that?
He's probably the hardest hitting heavyweight, right? Maybe Francis could hit a little bit harder, but I just didn't see DC being able to take too many of those. And he did actually take them. And he didn't have the type of strategy where it was like, I just need to get this to the ground. Like, he actually stood with him for a little bit and set it up. I thought it was pretty interesting. And, I mean, that guy surprises me more and more every fight.
Well, you changed it up a little bit. You said too many of those, but your first statement was like that if he got touched, he was going down. It sounded like what I used to hear about the Conor McGregor fans that would say, if he touches him, Khabib's going down. I mean, they're heavy-handed. Most fighters with 4-ounce gloves, if they put it on you on the right spot, of course, yeah. I mean, once Seth Petrozelli put out Kimbo backing up and just laying out a lazy jab, we know anything's possible.
Well, I was surprised that Derek was even – I liked that he threw a few kicks early to maybe keep Daniel on his toes, but I was surprised that he kept doing it, and I think that led to his demise, right? But – I just wish Derek would have let his hands go a little bit more in the beginning. But other than that, it was a fun fight. And the night, I don't know how to describe that night, you guys. Like, maybe it's because the last two cards were just so crazy with stuff happening that this one felt like it didn't live up to those. But it was still good, if that makes any sense.
Right, yeah. The, DC did what he needed to do. Against a guy like Derek Lewis. Like he says, the fight starts on the feet, so you got to go out there and compete, as a striker until you get the opportunity to get the fight to the ground, which is what you want to do with Lewis. For one, he's not as great of a wrestler as DC is, nor is his submission game as tight as DC's is, and you start to drain his energy meter. So it's pretty much a simple strategy, but one that's dangerous because the man's 6'4", 260 by the time, or 265 by the time he's fighting you. He's probably closer to 285, and he's very athletic. He can get up there with his switch kick. He can throw some vicious strikes with both hands. So it's a dangerous game, but I think DC thrives on that. So when I saw it unfold, I just thought, okay, textbook, mission accomplished, done. There wasn't anything great about it in that, maybe the fact that he made it look kind of easy is what made it so great. But, yeah, in terms of the wow factor that a main event can deliver, it didn't have that. It was just somebody executing a game plan and then getting their hand raised, and that's that. Plus, those two guys were cordial, so there wasn't like a ha-ha, from social media or the fans, and much less what happened at UFC 229. I mean, there wasn't anything where it spilled out into the fans. So we were left with that. But still, man, a fun night of fights. A lot of stuff, a lot of moving pieces. New stars were made. Old veterans returned. Guys were slinging leather. Bloody Matt from Arsene Moraes. So I was completely satisfied.
That fight kind of snuck up on hardcores.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to imagine casual fans maybe the week of, we're like, what? Cormier's fighting again? Like,
I know.
I think it just all kind of snuck up on everyone.
Or Lewis is fighting again. He was even the quicker turnaround. But there you have it. So Daniel Cormier has now defended his UFC heavyweight belt versus Derek Lewis. And now the question is, because the UFC has actually revealed their schedule for 2019, when will he fight again? When we saw third week in January in Anaheim, we were thinking, Lesnar will be off technically his suspension by then. But we also run into that thing where, can the UFC promote a fighter that's in any form of trouble? Remember we were saying the same thing with Khabib? Because he's going to have this window before next year's Ramadan, if they go after the 6-month suspension, where they could slip him in there versus Tony. Then Khabib can observe Ramadan and come back later in the year and fight again. We were thinking, well, would that be appropriate for the UFC to be involved in that? Who knows?
Do they even care at this point?
Do they care? Do we care? Who knows? But so we saw that date, and then the UFC revealed, I think it's March 2nd, back here in Las Vegas, which is a few weeks before his 40th birthday. So he could just say, the hell with January. Let's just do Brock in March, and then it's a wrap.
Which is one more fight
career.
than he thought, right? Because he was thinking 2.
Say what?
That would be one more fight than what he had originally. Remember, he said he thinks he could do 2, but he's now able to slip in 3.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, I guess if the UFC said, here's the checkbook, fill in the number, I guess he could do January. But let's say Brock was January, then now we're left with March, and now you're looking at, I guess, Stipe, run it back.
Why not?
Maybe, yeah. But see, you're left with, if
but what does
Stipe
Stipe
wins,
do?
what about the trilogy? But
what does Stipe do in that whole time, though? That's the thing.
I know. Well, I think he would wait that one out at this point. But, I mean, he only lost in July, so by March it'd be 9 months. So not ideal, but not the end of the world. I think DC is basically, he's written his book. And now it's just going up to someone like for example, yourself or whoever, his coach, John Smith. Hey, will you write what's it called, the foreword?
Yeah.
Will you just write that for me, and then handing it to an editor like a Dan Stupp or somebody and going, can you just edit this? But basically, it's written out.
The meat and potatoes is there.
Yeah, it's all written out, and then you kiss the book, and then you say, it's available at Barnes & Noble. I guess the final chapter is Brock Lesnar. I don't see anything else. And I'm starting to think we won't see anything else, including a John Jones, unless his salary is like tripled.
What does he do after that?
Something where even the wife goes, are you a fool?
Damn.
Retire at 40 and a half or something like that. You know what I mean?
I mean, I think they would do that. They'd at least offer it, right?
Maybe.
It'd take a strong individual to say no. But what does he do after that? What does a retired Daniel Cormier do?
He coaches the wrestling. It's Gilroy High School.
The garlic capital of the world.
The garlic capital of the world. He works for the UFC as... This noise is getting worse and worse, isn't it? He works for the UFC as a color commentator. He will probably, unless ESPN's dumb, I imagine he'll slide over, or maybe Fox will create some MMA programming and keep him there. I don't know. But I think he's got his plate full, and then I think he'll always be a part of AKA in terms of a coach, a guider, a mentor. So I think, and the kids are getting bigger pretty soon. They'll be, hey, Dad, I have a tournament. I have a game, and I think he'll want to go to those.
I'm 40, though. All right, he's going to be my age. So I'd have to think, what would I do if I had enough money to just retire? I think eventually I would get a little bored. Maybe if they keep up with the analyst stuff, I guess that is kind of like a job. Maybe that's enough to keep your face out there, because you kind of get addicted to the spotlight too, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to just go away.
And I really see him in an ambassador role with the UFC if they wanted to. If they said, hey, DC, listen, man, this thing just keeps growing and growing and growing. We want you out there in some way, like Forrest Griffin. I don't know if that would require him to move to Vegas. I doubt it. He really seems to be a NorCal guy.
I think we asked him one time. He said he wouldn't.
Right. So, but I really feel like the UFC at some point is going to be in the Daniel Cormier game as long as he wants to be in the game. And Daniel's not just going to sit there and collect the check. I think he'll work for it, whatever he needs to do. Maybe it's just once a month, fly to Europe, oversee an event, or help it in that regard, But I think the sky's the limit. Speaking of analysts, let's talk to the fight analyst, Dan Tom. What did you think of the main event at UFC 230? Daniel Cormier, second-round submission over Derek Lewis.
Yeah, man. It was I mean, I kind of feel, almost speechless as everybody else did, where you're just like, oh, yeah, I guess that's kind of what should have happened. But I did pick Cormier, but I was also on the other side where I was saying, trying to highlight certain facts that would be interesting about Lewis, that he hasn't been submitted. He really hasn't been finished on the ground. Guys who try to wrestle him have traditionally done worse when you look at his record going all the way back to his early days. So I was really curious to see what DC was going to do, especially when Derek Lewis would hit his as I call it, the tripod getup, where you turtle up and he almost makes a ski slope with his back, so it's a downward 45 angle. It invites a back take, but even really good back takers, or maybe not really good back takers, but credentialed Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts like Gonzaga or Roy Nelson went and would fall over forward, So was DC going to be able to do it?
Mass, right? They're not able to appropriately get hooks in. You're certainly not going to get a Rinaldi type of body triangle.
Well, yeah. If you're, let me tell you, just again, it's not really done. But as somebody who really likes to fight from the turtle position, and thankfully to coaches like Neil Melanson, I was educated on it, or looking at grapplers in the gi like Eduardo Teles. They're the most nightmares to grapple in the room. A guy that's good from turtle, you can never pass. First of all, because that's something that if you go turtle, you can never give a pass. We see that not just with catch wrestlers. Nick Diaz, okay, guys. Anytime George St. Pierre would pass, what did he keep doing? He kept rolling the turtle. Now, George St. Pierre was great at riding and would punch him and punish him for it, but it just made for a position where he was never allowing, like where even a great guy like BJ allowed George St. Pierre to get there. You let a guy like GSP or Matt Hughes get you in side control. It doesn't matter how good you are. So I always appreciate that of Derek Lewis. But Cormier was interesting. So he fails on the first one. But on the second one, he smells that it's coming, and he almost just grabs the neck before even Lewis even gets going, and then jumps on the back and gets it, moving like a lighter guy, which is Cormier's strength. So it was awesome to see him solve that puzzle that really no one has been able to solve. So that was the quiet little thing I was looking for, and what ended up, giving Cormier the victory. But yeah, happy for both guys. I don't want to jump too far ahead, but my highlight as far as fights go was one I was on the wrong end on as far as pick wise, but it didn't matter, man. It was one of my favorite fights. It was
Sousa Weidman?
Yeah, you nailed it, man.
That was something else.
That was an awesome fight.
That was a great fight. That's why I think nobody's coming in here going, God, how do I get my refund, or the UFC blows, or whatever?
Right.
Because that fight was so great that had Cormier's fight. I'm sorry. Cormier's back really prevented him from it locked up, folks. On Saturday morning, he sneezed. I've been joking about it all week.
I've told you how dangerous those things are. I pull muscles all the time from sneezing.
I've been joking all week, but Cormier sneezed on Sunday morning or Saturday morning, locked up his back, and if not for the work of, I guess, some UFC PI people that had flown out, some massage therapy and I think a warm shower or something, some other stuff he mentioned, he was actually close to pulling out. But I'm telling you that Jacare Weidman fight was incredible. It could have gone either way. I saw Jacare starting to tire, and I thought Weidman was starting to put some punches on his face, and I thought Weidman was going to be the one that pulls it out. But the one thing guys like Lewis and Jacare can do, even though it looks like they're tiring or they take that deep breath, when they collect themselves, they're still able to kinetically throw a hard punch and put it on you. And what he hit Weidman with is not in any way a traditional punch that we see. It wasn't a hook to the jaw or a liver shot, a kick to the dome or anything. He didn't even catch him behind the ear. Remember, that was a punch that was taking out people for a long time, certain parts of the neck. I mean, he just basically kind of like punched him, and it skidded off like his forehead temple. But if you see Weidman's reaction, he looked like like someone like honestly hit him with a bat or something, and he wasn't exhausted. He looked like he was in great shape. It just was a right spot on the noggin, put him out, and then of course we'll get to it in a sec. But we had what many are calling a very controversial stoppage with Dan Miragliotta, or lack of, because once Weidman went down, Jacare stood over him, and Weidman was obviously, I think Weidman knew, I'm in a fight, I just got hurt, And all he was trying to do is barely wrap his arm around the ankle. It wasn't really any attempt at, like, you ever see when a guy falls down and immediately reaches for some sort of a single, like a security blanket, because he knows he's hurt, but he's got to latch onto something. It wasn't anything like that. It really could have been a walk-off, and if you see Weidman's face, he's just looking at the stars. Miragliotta doesn't end the fight, so Jacare has to react. And by the time he is reacting, now Weidman is starting to grab a little bit of hold of his leg. Jacare standing over him, throws a couple punches, and then Miragliotta stops the fight. Jacare, of course, was very upset, put his hands on the ref, but I think he then also touched the ref as if to say, hey, look, obviously I didn't mean that shove, but I'm upset. I think he could have stopped it early. He's communicating this mentally, you know, and body language. But forgetting that part, man, that was such a great fight. They hit each other with everything they had in their toolbox.
Awesome fight, but I kind of disagree with all the hate from Miragliotta on that. And I know I'm going to be in the minority on this, but I've watched it a few times, and even when it happened, I think I told you, I think the fact that Jacare did not rush in when that happened kind of put everything into motion of what happened. Because I think you could say that when Weidman went back, the reason he didn't really do anything was because there wasn't really a reaction from his opponent coming in as well. And you can't just I know guys want to do it.
Did Weidman look to you like he was laying there inviting him into his guard?
No, but there wasn't enough time to make that decision.
Okay.
And part of that was because Jacare decided to just stand there.
Was
the way
Jacare
Mark Hunt does a lot.
Was Jacare blocking Miragliotta?
A little bit.
Okay.
But, you know, those two fighters, especially the way they fight, they cover a lot of ground. So you can't expect Miragliotta to just be right there over their shoulder, too.
Yeah.
So he was, I don't want to say out of position, but he had to be a distance away. And I think the fact that he didn't rush in, the fact that he tried to do the walk-off, I think might have affected how all that went out. Because then by the time he did react, by then now Weidman is reacting, which is enough to kind of leave Miragliotta with having to let that fight play out.
I understand what you're saying.
I don't think it's 100% on Miragliotta.
I see officials all the time wishing they would have thrown a flag in football or blown the whistle. You know what I mean? And you can tell their instant reaction is like, God damn it, but they got to make their official stance in one way or another. It's just that in the fight game, it looks so much worse because it's one big fight that night. You know what I mean? The UFC is head and shoulders above, you know, everything else. So there's a big, big spotlight on that promotion. Whereas football is like there's, you know, what is there, 16 games on a Sunday or whatever, and it's 50 the day before. In college football or 100, who knows? It just kind of gets swept. Like, you know, bad call. Yeah, we're expecting a few of these, but yeah, in this sport, a lot. That was a big, big backlash. All right, so Jacare, Weidman, you guys offered your thoughts. Anything else on that? You feel like Jacare may have gotten himself a title shot?
I didn't really get to offer my thoughts, but can I just offer my thoughts at least on the stoppage?
Sure.
Is that I just want to say that, yeah, I can see what Goz is saying as far as the way, not that it's wrong, but the way Jacare went up for the walk-off and kind of made a statement. He did that kind of with Brunson, too. It's very similar, except Brunson was a little more active. The exchange was a different exchange. But I could see what, I mean, how do I word this? I could see what Goz means as far as, like, that's what kind of set it into motion or made it look worse than it was. I'm not defending Big Dan. I think that Big Dan probably shouldn't have been in there reffing in the first place. I mean, not that you should be superstitious, but you're got a losing record in New York with all these weird things happening, and one of them being with Big Dan reffing your fight with Mousasi. Am I correct? Wasn't he the one there too, where he had a bad angle on the knee?
And Big John had to help him out.
So you already have a ref that, not only the East Coast connection, he's a friendly guy. Big Dan's an awesome guy, or whatever connections he might have with Weidman or that camp, or not to even cast those judgments or anything, because it's irrelevant. And I trust Big Dan for those basic biases, but there was a glaring bias where Big Dan recently stopped a fight that, I'm sure he wishes, maybe he could have played back a different way, and maybe in his head, it was like, oh well, I kind of robbed, even though at the end of the day, that Mousasi Weidman call, it was Weidman. At the end of the day, Weidman's accountable for how he was feeling and how he expressed himself in that stoppage. But the other part to that was Dan Miragliotta can look at it like, well, I stopped a fight and didn't give a guy a chance to get his win in New York. And man, maybe I played a role in that. And that you got to know that's in the back of his head. Now And not that it makes it right, not that you should overcorrect the steering wheel, but I talk about this a lot. I talk about it a lot with particularly with fighter picks and whatnot, how we'll all do that. We'll pick against the guy, then he'll prove us wrong, and then next thing you know, we're kind of overcorrecting the steering wheel, and we're going hard on this guy, and we're not staying objective on it. We're just kind of reacting to the ebbs and flows, and that's just human nature. And we see it with refs, right? We'll see it where how many times do we see it where a lot of these bad stoppages we'll start off with like the ref gave a guy a bad call, and it was a bad call in hindsight. He kind of went live with the moment. Maybe he saw the replay and goes, ooh, I just gave this guy a break when he shouldn't. I'm going to make up for it. And the guy he wants to make up for it finds himself getting hurt later in the fight. And now all of a sudden you're like, oh, well, I'm going to wait and give him an extra chance to get back in the fight, thinking that you're doing him a solid. We see that all the time with refs. I'm sure some stoppages are popping up in your head.
Actually, I'm real good about compartmentalizing.
Right.
You watch a lot of film.
Right.
If I were to do that, I'd probably come across things like that. I think the referees are good at just what happened and keeping it fresh going into a new fight.
Yeah.
Now, Weidman, if he really had a problem with Miragliotta, and I don't know if fighters know this or not, he could tell I guess in this case it's the New York Commission, I'll just call them that, tell them that I don't want Miragliotta reffing my fight.
Right.
Once they decide, I don't think you have a say, but going into it, you do. So who knows if that's come up.
Only one time.
Has it?
You can only do it once. So
one time, right.
If you were to say no Miragliotta, and they go, all right, Herb Dean, you can't say, and no Herb Dean. You can only do one.
I got you.
So I don't know. It's weird. I just feel like I don't know. I don't think it was a horrendous call, but obviously he should not allow that to happen again. You know what I mean?
Right.
But in the end, I think it worked out, and I don't think Chris took any sort of lethal damage because of that slip up. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I will say that I think Jacare, motioning to him made it look worse too.
Yes.
I agree. I think it was awesome. I'm glad that Jacare did it. I praised him on Twitter. I stand by that. But at the same time, even on the slow motion replay, the time actually, even in slow motion, that elapses between when he drops to when Weidman goes, I'm going to kind of, and don't get me wrong, it was a good stoppage. That wrestling was indiscriminate. He was out of it. But even between those points, even in slow motion, it didn't really look like that long of time elapsed. So I'm not saying it was a good amount of time. I'm not saying it was a bad or it was a good stoppage, but I'm just saying that, as far as playing devil's advocate, it probably wasn't as bad, and I don't think it was an issue. I think, doesn't make it good. It doesn't make it any better. But at the end of the day, I think Big Dan's a good referee, and I think he meant well. And it just got captured at the wrong moment where you're trying to give a guy time. And I give those examples. Whereas other times, there are some referees where it's an ego thing, where you'll see it where they're like, they don't want to be conned. You'll see a fighter try to pull something, and refs will be like, oh no, none of that. You'll see in Yoel Romero fights like Mazzagatti versus. Sorry, not Mazzagatti. Shoot. Yamasaki. Yamasaki was reffing one of Yoel Romero fights, and it was after the Tim Kennedy fight. And Yoel Romero actually gets, I think it was against Jacare, and he actually gets an eye poke or something legitimately happens to him, and Yamasaki brushes it off like, oh, not this guy. Because you almost get like an ego. You're like, no, you're not going to fool me. And now where that gets really dangerous is stoppages. And a lot of these bad stoppages will be sometimes you'll see a ref like, no, this fight's over when I say it's over. And yes, that's true, but come on, man. It's almost like an ego thing. Like, no, you're not calling the fight. I'm calling the fight. Keep hitting him. And it's like that little ego battle. Now, in reality, that ref's not twiddling their mustache and not saying, kill this person. I want blood. That's not the ref's prerogative, but it comes off that way when your ego gets involved, and that's what I see a lot. I didn't see that with Big Dan is what I'm trying to say. I don't think it was a bad stoppage in that sense.
Did Souza earn a title shot?
Okay, I thought going in, a victory just wouldn't put him there. But the way he did it, and I think the way people got behind him, I think maybe he could have gotten there. At least he's in the talks, whereas before I just thought, no,
he's definitely in the talks.
Work.
Yeah, he's definitely in the talks. The talks.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go through the rankings, like there's Rockhold injured, there's Romero just had his title shot, there's Mousasi over at Bellator, and you start progressing down. Gastelum, he's got the title shot. Weidman, he just lost to Souza by a process of elimination, and Souza's there, at least according to USA Today Sports and MMA Junkies rankings.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a guy, Israel Adesanya. So I'm skipping a little. Sorry, guys. We'll get to Cannonier and Roberson. But Adesanya, I think, was another star from that night. He defeated Derek Brunson, who's up there in the rankings. He's like a top 10 or so. And now Adesanya undefeated, making it look easy, spectacular finish, oozing charisma, getting Dana White to just utter his name and how impressed he was. I just wonder if that could surpass Jacare, who has been an amazing fighter, a former Strikeforce middleweight champ, a long-time UFC contender, but he also lost his last fight, too, prior to the Weidman win. In fact, if you think about Weidman, Gastelum, and Jacare, it's like a round robin. So remember, we're in that money fight era. We're in the big fight era. That's why I asked, do you think Jacare would be next? And I really only feel like the only other person that would have a stake in this is Adesanya.
Whenever you get praise from Dana White and Joe Rogan, the way Israel has, that's a big deal. Those are just really big endorsements. So it leads me to believe that that's probably what the UFC want to do. But I think it comes down to maybe the matchmaker sometimes and just their confidence in the fighter. Can we maybe give them one more fight to build them up, but do we risk that big money fight? And I think that's the game that they play. If it were me, I'd try and get him one more and really showcase him.
So Souza gets the next title shot.
Yeah, I think I would
Dan,
do that.
what do you think?
I'm glad you brought up Adesanya when you're talking about Souza as far as that goes, because it's only one fight, but Gastelum pretty much got it on a one-fight winning streak when you
Two fight.
Two
he
fight.
beat Souza and then he beat Bisping.
That's right. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, not that it's
pretty
that
much. I mean, it's a split decision and a last-minute one. Over, let's be honest. I mean, let's be honest. There's not a big precedence for earning a title shot in that division, even though it's turning very exciting. So from that perspective, yeah. But I would say one more fight for Souza, one more fight for Adesanya, which could put them together. But either way,
on the same card as Whitaker and
sure.
Gastelum maybe, huh?
Sure,
yeah.
But the
funny, not a bad play.
The funny part is you could argue that that's even fast-tracking him, even though you could argue that Adesanya could get a title shot now because he's got 4 wins in 2018 in a row in the UFC. Riding an even longer winning streak when we go outside. Me, definitely not give him the title shot. Give
it to Souza?
No.
Who gets the winner of Gastelum and Whitaker?
You put gun to the head. I guess you put Souza and Adesanya together. They seem like at the top of the list. So yeah,
I kind of like that idea because
they won't do it.
Really?
Make them fight each other?
Right.
No.
Why?
It's a bad.
Because I think they want both of them. He's right. Yeah. Like it's such a carousel of people that they're going to run out of options.
Let me throw some positives at you guys. It also ensures. Let's say Gastelum or Whitaker has a problem getting to that dance. Remember, Whitaker's had some injuries. He wins, there's an injury. He wins, there's an injury, or a coaching stint. You know what I mean? So it's not like he's been fluid in his defenses. And Adesanya's also an Oceania fighter. He's New Zealand. The fight's going to take place in Australia. They announced UFC 234 in Australia, like early part of February. And I wonder if putting them as insurance, and now you put one in versus the champ should something happen. Not just I don't think a weight cut because honestly both guys are undersized middleweights. But just in case there's an injury or some sort of a hiccup, you have yourself your insurance. And remember, the UFC's kind of gone the route of insurance. They got Anderson versus Latifi underneath Jones and Gustafsson. They got Kat Zingano fighting Megan Anderson underneath Cyborg and Amanda Nunes. So I see a lot of these little insurance policies kind of like there, aside from like the one we saw in Dallas. Hey, Kamaru Usman, just go train and we'll pay you. No, they're actually giving fights and putting fights there so that if everything works out great, hey, we just had a stellar card. And if anything, the winner of Adesanya versus Jacare is now in line versus the Whitaker of Gastelum, kind of like on the same timeline. So I'm starting to like that, actually.
How does this sound to you guys? This isn't what the UFC typically does, and I don't like it when they do this. But young guys versus young guys, older guys versus older guys, and you can put both or if not one on the Australian card, which is Luke Rockhold versus Souza. They're always looking for an excuse to give Luke Rockhold a billing, a name, an excuse to do well. Well, there it is. And it's a big, juicy name, revenge for Souza. Oh, revenge tour, give him a title after that. Both works there. And then you revisit, and even though I typically don't like this, but two younger guys, but I could deal with it. Costa Adesanya.
Oh, no. Those are two I wanted to keep apart.
Yeah.
Just for one more. I understand what you're saying. The trajectory's there for what's going to be an awesome fight one day. But, oh, man, I'm not ready for each guy to be derailed because I'm really excited about that division. But great ideas, guys.
Yeah.
All right, we'll finish out talking about the main card when we come back. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation Channel 93. Stay close. We'll be right back. And don't forget, in the second hour, we have Daniel Cormier and Dustin Poirier headed your way.
Hurt yourself?
I hurt myself this morning bad. And look, sometimes I go into the octagon and I hear it in the build-up, like, when is this guy going to get old? You know, it could happen overnight. I thought it happened this morning. I sneezed. And I slipped my back out, guys. I was hurting bad. Like, seriously, we got some pictures that we may release later in the week, but, like, I sneezed, and because I sneezed, my back slipped out. And I went to try to do my morning run, and it wasn't happening. I went back in the UFC. You know, they have the Performance Institute. They travel with us now. So Heather Linden and Clint Wattenberg, they came over with the massage table, with the stem machine, with all kinds of stuff to try to help me release my back. And then at around 1 o'clock, it was to the point that I was still kind of singed over and leaning, that Bob Cook was all, if you don't get better, then we're going to have to make a decision on whether or not you're going to fight. So it was real close. I said, just let me take a nap. I said, if you let me take a nap, I'll see if I feel better. And I woke up and went for a walk. And when I went for a walk and got active, my back started to release a little bit. It was very scary because I really had no idea how we were going to explain that one. Like, I mean, I was like, I don't know how we're going to explain this. Like, that I sneezed and hurt my back. That's getting old. That's what that is.
Yeah.
Well, I can co-sign with DC because coughing and laughing has made me do the same thing, but I actually have an actual compressed nerve. His was just random. I mean, he was a healthy athlete going into this fight, but I mentioned it earlier, and DC was that close to not fighting. I'm glad it worked out. And kudos to the UFC for the traveling circus now, including people from the Performance Institute, here in Las Vegas. I don't want to just assume they're massage therapists. I'm sure they're very qualified people in all realms of rehab and strength and conditioning. So let's just say, the staff. But kudos to them, and it worked out for them. They saved themselves a multi-million-dollar fight.
I think it's part of being Dangerous Dan. I heard this one poem when I was in 2nd grade about Dangerous Dan, and it was like, I forget how the poem goes, but he does all these crazy things and he doesn't get hurt. But then at the end of the poem, he goes home on his rug. He slips on his welcome home rug and cracks his head, and that's how Dangerous Dan gets hurt. In other words, the moral of the story was it's the dumb little things that end up, getting you. Like all the things that I've done, from jumping off stupid things and crashing and throwing punches and kicks, and the two broken bones I suffer are just doing two stupid random things that just from the toe to a finger.
Randleman slipped backstage as well, right? First era.
Yeah. Didn't you just bring that up on the show the other week? You were talking about that.
Wasn't his actually there at the cage? Cabbage was backstage. I remember that.
Broke his forearm.
Yeah.
I think Randleman's was as he was about to walk through that curtain somewhere around there. Something happened.
Maybe that irony is more prominent when we're talking about fighters, right? When they get hurt doing dumb things, because you're like, of all the things this guy could get hurt from,
been right at the top of the list. A sneeze ruining a whole fight.
Yeah, you're right.
All right. Finish out the main card. Jared Cannonier defeated David Branch, and Carl Roberson defeated Jack Marshman. Cannonier, that upset is a huge upset because Branch is a formidable middleweight, a ranked middleweight, and Cannonier looked good. He got the stoppage. I mean, it was a statement win. So I'll touch on that when we get to highs and lows today. But I just loved all the middleweight action, how it was stacked. Let me just say this, because I mentioned it earlier. Jordan Rinaldi just sucked the wind out of Jason Knight. I was actually still impressed with Jason Knight doing everything he could except stop wrestling and stop the body triangle, the effective grappling plan that Jordan Rinaldi had. I know. I think this is 3 in a row, maybe 4 in a row. I still hope they give him one more shot because he's out there trying to fight, and I think he's a character. So Jara Eubanks defeated Roxanne Modafferi. I actually thought she handled herself well till the very end, telling people, boo me if you've never been through this, or 20-pound weight class. It's like, oh, don't say that. But I did see a subsequent interview in the back where she realizes and said, I think what we wanted to hear, hey, man, I don't think I'm in a position to ask for anything. That 1.2 that I came in heavy is probably gonna hold me back from a possible title shot. So I'll let the UFC decide.
Definitely.
There you go. A little bit of responsibility. and reality, which we weren't really getting from her social media when they gave her the fight, took the fight away, and all that. So, but still, look good. All right, Shaman Moraes, Julio Arce, bloody fight. Moraes gets the win there. Split decision. Lyman Good defeated Ben Saunders in round 1. Matt Frevola, Venata had a great fight, but it was a draw. Shane Burgos defeated Kurt Hollabaugh, and De Lima defeated Wistarek. By the way, the Venata fight, I got to say, Venata's so frustrating to bet on because the guy, look, he really is groovy and smooth and fluid, but damn it, he leaves gas in the tank. And
it's frustrating.
That, he should have fought a little bit better in the 3rd round. And he just hits this cruise control button. I don't know why. And that's what he's left with, that fight. But I want to get to the callers. They've been waiting for a long time, and we're running a bit behind. So let's do that. Kevin in Chicago, start things off. What's up, buddy?
What's up, guys? Got a bunch to unpack here. So who convinced Chris Weidman that he's a counter kickboxer or something? I mean, he's a wrestler, and he was afraid to wrestle. He didn't have faith in his grappling. He was too scared. He went in there and engaged in a grappling match with Jacare, so he chose to stand and bang with Jacare, really heavy-handed Jacare. He's got a bunch of brutal knockout wins on his record. And anytime you stand and trade like that, you take the risk of getting knocked out. So I feel like he's a wrestler. He needs to go back to his wrestling. Put him against the cage, take him down, wear him out more. He didn't do any of that. The 2nd round, one takedown he tried. He got a takedown, then Jacare hit a roll to get back up on his feet. That's the worst thing that happened, okay? Jacare hit a roll, and they scrambled and got back to his feet. I mean, I feel like he could have pushed him against the cage this entire fight when Jacare was walking him down, but he just kind of got him in the Muay Thai clinch and didn't do much with it, let him taking body shots all night. I heard Dana White saying Weidman looked good the whole fight. I don't think he looked good the whole fight. The 1st round, I thought he was doing decent. He had some nice jabs, but the 2nd and 3rd round, he was just getting walked down and taking brutal body shots. So I didn't think it was that good of a performance. My other point was, man, this card, I wasn't too high on it because if you look at the people who fought, they're all coming off losses. Look at Robertson's coming off a loss. Jacare's coming off a loss. Who else? Cannonier's coming off back-to-back losses. You got Rinaldi versus Knight as the main event for the Fox Sports 1's prelims cards. They're both coming off losses. Jason Knight's coming off 3 losses in a row. I just felt like, man, they're putting on some really bad cards lately with the UFC. I think they're having a card once a week. It seems like they're having cards. They need to separate them maybe once every 3 weeks or something and start jamming the cards in, packing them in, stacking them like they used to, because these cards have been garbage the last few weeks. What do you guys think?
Well, what did you think of Saturday night's card?
I just felt like the co-main event, that was the best fight on the card. I think that was worth it. That kind of saved the whole card. Israel
Adesanya looked great. Cannonier dropped, 2 weight classes now. He looked pretty good. Frevola, he gave us a great fight versus Lando Venata on the undercard. Lyman Good had a nice stoppage. I hear what you're saying. We've kind of said that for a long time, the oversaturation thing.
They won't scale back because we bought it.
It's not going to happen. You know what I mean? As far as Weidman, thanks for the call, Kevin. As far as Chris Weidman, look, yeah, he could have gone to his wrestling, but Jacare won with a secondary martial arts skill. His bread and butter is jiu-jitsu. But they both realized that they had paths to victory with the keeping the fight standing. And I thought Weidman felt like he was slowly getting to where he wanted because Jacare was getting tired and he was hurting Jacare. Now, at the same time, Jacare would explode and hurt Weidman. So I don't know that it was really like a fumbled game plan because if he went to the ground, a lot of people would be going, "What the hell are you doing? He's one of the best on the ground. What are you doing?" So I don't think I can really give him too much grief on that one, honestly.
Yeah, I'll say I don't think he was afraid to wrestle. Although that was kind of interesting. Is that being fair and balanced by Kevin? He's actually coming at wrestlers. I almost don't want to hate on him for that, but I will defend Weidman and say I don't think he was scared to wrestle or anything. Kind of citing what Gigi said. I think a lot of people had that mark for Weidman's game plan because if you look at it, both guys were liable, whether it was Jacare gassing or Weidman's chin. But that was the irony heading into this fight. Is not only a lot of people, perceive that as the path to least resistance. I mean, the guy, how many years has he done doing jiu-jitsu versus striking? How many submissions does he have versus strikes? I mean, the path there is obvious, and the irony is that not just the reffing irony, but the irony was it was in the third round again that he lost to in Madison Square Garden. If you remember the first time, even though I don't really buy that, Weidman was ahead 2 rounds as clearly as this fight, but if you notice in that third round of the Romero fight, he's trying to secure that round with takedowns early on because he in his head, he either has to win the round or protect his lead. So what does he do? He goes for the takedown and gets kneed in the head because he fell into that Romero trap. So that could have been playing in Weidman's head as well. It's like, oh, well, last time I went and played it safe. Let's just do what kept working these last 2 rounds, and I'll just stay on my bicycle, and it just ended up catching up with him. So I will defend Weidman as far as that goes.
Showtime in Tennessee. What's up, Showtime? It's yo time.
Hey, what's going on, fellas?
What's up, bud?
What's up?
What'd you think of Saturday night?
It was pretty good, man. A couple upsets that messed up my parlay a little bit, man. I was really impressed with Jared Cannonier, man. He looked good as hell, man. I think he may have found the perfect division for him. He'll be considered a bigger, stronger fighter in this division.
Loved his takedown defense, athleticism, techniques, just random scrambling, but he did what he needed to do.
Damn, and he got power, man. He was cracking breasts, man, like woof.
Mm-hmm.
Man, the ladies fight, man, I wasn't impressed with Sajara at all, man. I think Valentina make mincemeat of her, man. I wasn't impressed with her at all, man. I think Nico will beat her. Her gas tank is weak. He needs to stop talking so much and get back in the gym, man. That was, even though the Happy Warrior is tough as hell, I love that chick, man. That's what you call a fighter, man, just going out there being tough and just fighting and just having heart and guts. Man.
I didn't think she should have gone to the ground, though. I think she made a mistake. I think she should have realized that her only route to victory was standing, and maybe because some of those combos were hurting Sajara, but on the ground with Sajara, I didn't think she'd have anything for it. The one thing Sajara is known for is her decorated ground game. So I thought she made a mistake there because that was her only path. And even then, I still think Sajara was going to win the fight. But, all right, Showtime, I got to cut it a little short right now. We got to go to break. Thanks for the call. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation Channel 93. Stay close. We'll be right back.
They are the stretch marks on the underbelly of the MMA community. But hey, stretch marks are the new tax. They are Gorgeous George and Goes.
The road to the Final Four starts tomorrow, and the biggest games are on SiriusXM. 20 of the top 25 college basketball teams are in action, highlighted by number 4 Duke taking on number 2 Kentucky. Visit SiriusXM.com/college basketball schedule for game times and channel listings. All right, let's go to Marco in Waco, Texas. What's up, Marco? How you doing?
Marco from Waco, ¿qué pasa, dude?
What's up, bud?
What the fuck? Kevin from Chicago is replacing Dan from Oregon as my nemesis. But that dude got nothing but video and hate for the car. What the fuck, dude? What is he hitting on Chris Weidman? Chris Weidman was winning that fight. The course of Chris Weidman, he was winning the fight until he got caught with something out of nowhere. It happened with Luke Rockhold. It happened with freaking Romero, with Mousasi, that weird knee, and now this shit. Man, I feel for Chris, but what do you think? And do we send him to 205? Take a break? Because I don't know what space does Chris Weidman fall on this one. Dude.
Well, you know what? Let me tell you something. It's funny you say that. When I watched the Embeddeds, they passed each other a lot. And Weidman, even though it was great to see his family time with his kids, there was one moment where you could just tell he like alluding to what Marco's saying, 85 kills him, man, to get to it. But he went out there and he did it. And I saw Jacare, it was an easier 85. So what did they rehydrate back to? Not 100% because of the injuries and the fact that it's just 36 hours. Did one guy get to about 98, 95, and the other guy maybe like 92? I don't know, man. Chris Weidman's a tall guy. If he filled out, got a little bit stronger, maybe Marco's right. Maybe that would be his path.
I could see
you
that.
can't say he needs time off because his last fight was a win, and he took time off. So it's not like his brain hasn't been rested. He is getting older. He has been touched on the chin a few times. But I really don't know because he's winning fights. He's just not able to put them away.
Can I reiterate a stat that I know I've said a few times on this show, but now it's even more relevant after Saturday night's result. And even though I picked Weidman in this fight, the reason why I probably have had a hard time picking him in recent years, since his Anderson Silva fight, he has been rocked, dropped, or stopped in every fight. That's including his last 2 title defenses. He got rocked, he got rocked by both Lyoto and Vitor. Then, of course, he gets stopped by Rockhold, gets knocked out by Romero, gets tagged up quite a bit by Mousasi before that stoppage. Even though he beats Gastelum, he is dropped and momentarily flash KO'd in the first round against Kelvin Gastelum, and then, of course, knocked out against Ronaldo Souza. The 7 fights in a row, guys. 7 in a row.
So maybe
it's a hell of a trend.
He needs to wrestle more.
The Lyoto fight changed him.
Huh?
The Lyoto fight changed him.
Yeah.
We were there
he
for
left
that.
a lot. He left a lot. Yeah. All right. Sorry, Marco. Same thing that happened with Showtime. We got to let you go a little early. We're up against that top of the hour break. It's quick, guys. We'll be back in, I think, 40 seconds. So stay close. MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation, Channel 93.
Make a big noise playing in the street, gonna be a big man someday.
You gonna watch this movie?
You big disgrace, kicking your can all over the place, singing we will.
Number 1 Queen fan over here you're looking at. Oh, I love Queen.
We will rock you.
I never realized how big his teeth were.
Freddie Mercury from Zanzibar.
All right, here we go. It's the second hour of the MMA Junkie Radio Show. UFC 230 took place this past weekend, and 4 fighters were awarded $50,000 win bonuses. Fight of the night went to Ronaldo Souza and Chris Weidman. Performance of the night went to Jared Cannonier and Israel Adesanya. There's no second N in there. The gate was 2,841,000 and some change. The attendance was 17,011. They do well when they go there to Madison Square Garden. I don't have any pay-per-view information. It's too soon. There have been times where we get early numbers in the early part of the weeks, but mostly Tuesday, Wednesday-ish. And then there's been times when we had to wait a few weeks. So, any guesses? Quick, guys? It's not a science, just a guess.
I don't think it did that well.
Yeah. 300? I'm going to say 300. How about you guys? Although, cards on the heels of big cards, sometimes there's a trickle effect where you bring back fans and go, wow, I got to get the next one. So, actually, let me add a little bit and go 375.
Well, good, then, because I like your 300. Yeah.
I'll go a little optimistic on this. I'll go 500 because I always think of that classic example of UFC 100, UFC 101.
Yes. Philadelphia. Right. And then 102 was in Portland. And Philadelphia, I think, did 1.1.
It was really surprising, right?
Forrest Griffin and Anderson Silva, BJ Penn, and somebody.
Ken Flo.
Yeah. And then the other one was Nogueira and Couture. And I thought, holy shit, that UFC 100, it changed the way these fights are going to go. They're all going to be close to 1 million now. But then the drop-off started after that. So I put you down for 500, Goes 300, and I put 375.
Goes mentioned fights that changed people. We're talking about that Weidman fight and whatnot.
That's a scary run you mentioned, man.
Yeah, it was, man. And not only that, like, because like the reason that the Machida fight, for what Goes saying, you guys were there live, and from that perspective, and from just if you really want to dive into the film perspective, you can actually look, and Weidman is asking, even after the fight's over, He in between rounds, he's not sure what round it is. He's getting the rounds wrong. He's going, what happened? What I get hit with? He even did that in the Vitor Belfort. As even though Vitor, it was only 1 round fight, and Vitor only had like that one blitz and maybe some dirty boxing elbows on Weidman. He was asking like, what happened with that fight? When you actually, I'm a nut. I'm like listening to the corners after the fight and stuff, and saying, okay, well, how collected was this guy? And it's a scary trend. But you mentioned the UFC 102, George, and I would argue that maybe not a life-changing fight like as far as a war, but it's probably the last time we saw the best versions, I would argue, of Randy Couture and Minotauro Nogueira. I mean, they looked great physically, the way they were performing and moving. And that was, I think, one of the last great. It was a really fun fight, too.
Todd
really
Duffy
fun.
looked good that night, too.
That was a fun card, man. It was.
And Jared Rochal got a win, right?
Jake Rochal did the Lieben. He had Lieben twitching with the head and arm choke, right? That brutal head and arm choke.
Yeah.
Was that Maya and
and
Marquardt, too?
Yep, that one happened on there.
7 or 8 seconds.
It was a fun card.
Yeah. All right, guys. Cannonier. I mean, Roberson. If you guys want to revisit that at all, that would round out the main card. You know what? I don't know if I gave my thoughts. I guess I did. I just said I do like Adesanya versus Jacare on the same card as Whitaker defending versus Gastelum. I like it as insurance, but I just think let's match them up. I feel like there's a guy like Apollo Costa, and then your Rockholds, Romeros, the other guys that will cycle in and, maybe provide for another contender. I see what Goes is saying. Do we want to really clip one or the two? But the one thing I've noticed with the UFC is they live for now. They used to live for lining up their whole year when they only did 5 pay-per-views per year. Hey, if Ortiz wins here, maybe we can get him back out. Now it's just like the cartels. One of these shipments will go through. We'll be all right. I think I'm good, guys. I mean, we're going to talk to Cormier. Is there any controversy? But I think I'm good with 230 talk, at least for now. But what do you guys think?
I think I'm definitely going to touch on a couple of the topics in our highs and lows segment coming up. But yeah, aside from that, I do want to give a shout out. I thought I was real high on Julio Arce coming into this, but Sheymon Moraes showed up, man, and he was a guy who was talked about as a prospect too. Ran into some tough roadblocks. I mean, he hit Marlon Moraes when he was building his own name in WSOF. Obviously, that loss aged very well. And then Zabit Magomedsharipov is his debut fight, so that's not an easy debut fight. Granted, Zabit was making his debut on the same night. So he had a really tough road and injuries as well, and he showed out, man. So I wanted to give that dude that dude some love as far as that fight goes, and yeah.
Yeah, here's the topic real fast. One, let me get this out. Brian Kelleher was not able to go. So if you all are asking what happened to Montel Jackson versus Brian Kelleher, Kelleher was pulled from the fight, I think, day of illness. I'm not sure more specific than that, stomach or flu or what, but he was pulled. So I hope Montel Jackson was given his show and win. I think he did the required.
Well, show is about show, right? But sometimes they don't always get that win.
Yeah. And Kelleher, honestly, if it's an illness, then maybe he got it too. He weighed in. But the other thing I was going to say was, and I don't think it affects any subsequent video we're doing, with Derek Lewis, what do you want to do with that big guy?
Time off.
Yeah.
A lot of it.
Yeah.
I think he's earned it. But the question is now, now that he had a taste of fighting for a title, I'm wondering if that's maybe changed his stance on winning the belt versus just making money.
Right, and DC will be out of the way come March of 2019.
Well, I think whether he likes it or not, Derek Lewis is going to be put in that position because now that he's gotten the rub, even despite the loss and the weight loss, he still got the rub, right? I mean, the rub was what got him into the fight in the first place. He did what Derek Lewis always does. He comes back, wins, and gives a funny post fight. That wasn't anything new in what 229 was, but he got the Conor rub. That took over to the UFC 230 rub. And if UFC 230 gets the rub that George was alluding to, how traditionally these pay-per-views have gone, I see them using Lewis as that contender gatekeeper spot where we got a fun fight, but now he's a meaningful name. So even if the rankings or his record doesn't justify it, which his record's better than people give him credit for, they could still justify a win over Lewis to get whoever they want into that title picture. So I think they're going to use him as that guy.
And he's been active. So he stacked some paper. He got his name out there. Even DC in his post-fight mentioned Lewis's Instagram, if I'm not mistaken. So he can chill. I'd like to see him in the summer of 2019. Maybe around the time of International Fight Week.
Does he chill Nate Diaz style, though, guys?
What does that mean?
It takes a long break, and then the next thing you know, they're at the negotiating table, and you start hearing, well, they're having trouble getting a deal done.
In talking to him personally, he's always kind of gotten it, and I think he realizes that he's got a window to make money.
Right.
So I think he'll take a break, but I think he'll get right back in.
Right.
Very true. Very true.
And luckily, he didn't get socked up. He lost and he got dominated, but he's not. He'll be all right. All right, guys. Let's do the daily debate. Our guests are coming up here in about 20 minutes. We'll start off with Daniel Cormier and then Dustin Poirier. So we're going to do a little bit of this right now. We'll start off with the daily debate. Today's question is, do you think UFC champ Daniel Cormier will fight beyond his self-imposed retirement date of his 40th birthday on March 20th, 2019? Yes or no is what they're asking. But I want you guys to sprinkle in a little bit more than that. We'll start with you guys.
I want to say yes. I know he went out of his way to say no, but when certain things aren't on the table and all of a sudden they are, they really do change things. And I think even if it's his family, his friends that are saying, hey, it's time to stop, I think even they may come on board because, I mean, you see some of the money that got thrown Conor McGregor's way. I think if that type of money or something even close to that gets thrown his way, he's still competitive. He's not a guy that needs to go away. So I think maybe he would do it.
Dan, Tom?
Those are really good points, and I think the trend, if you look at DC's decision, would be yes, because when these decisions come onto the table, he's taken them. Even when he's told us one thing, and next thing you know, he's up at heavyweight, even though he just said he didn't want to be at heavyweight. Now look at him now. Also, the dance partner who I see kind of bringing him back in, like Al Pacino in Godfather 3, right when DC thinks he's back out, I see John Jones bringing him back in. So another reason why I would say yes, but I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no is because one thing DC alluded to, aside from all the opportunities that we know he has, he alluded to big TV deals that are kind of outside of fighting, and the money of that kind of sets precedent over everything, even WWE money, and that's even another wild card venture if we want to factor into this here. So I'm going to follow the money here, guys, and because I suspect DC will follow the money, and if these opportunities are true, why not exit the way few people have exit on the proverbial top side? So I'll say no.
Now you made me think, Dan, because I thought my answer was going to be easy with that WWE I'm still going to go with yes because Floyd. Okay, we'll get into Floyd in just a second, but these guys just there's opportunities out there. There's new cable networks and satellite pay-per-views and digital platforms. Who knows? Maybe Netflix is going to have fights pretty soon. Do you see the Zone blowing up? Canelo signed for what? $350 million for his next thing? I don't know.
Wow, that's insane.
So yeah, there's guys that can pull him out like Jones. There's what if him and Lesnar is a barn burner? I don't know. I think it's just easier to say yes. Cormier loves to compete. And the money, but it would have to be big money. Not that Ali Abdelaziz $50 million. Khabib's only coming out for $50 million money, but still, like once you start getting into 8 figures for something that's fun for them to do, he loves to go out there and train. He loves to get a good knock from Rockhold and Velasquez and Ruslan and all the other big guys over there at AK. And now you're gonna actually let him perform in front of fans on television. Man, that's music to his ears. So I'll go with yes. 850 votes came in. 53% said yes. 47% said no. So it's kind of right down the middle. There you have it. There's today's Daily Debate brought to you by the MMA Junkie Radio team. Now we're going to do something a little different. We're going to take an earlier break here because towards the end we have both of our guests, and we don't want any hiccups. I think we're just going to slide from one to the other. So let's get the little guy out of the way. It's MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation, Channel 93.
Tell your boss to reschedule that meeting. Call your wife and tell her lunch is off. It's time for more MMA Junkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Goes.
Get in the spirit of the holidays with SiriusXM's full lineup of holiday channels. 15 channels of commercial-free holiday music, including Holiday Traditions on Channel 3, Holly on Channel 4, and new this year's the Stars of Hallmark Channel present their holiday favorites on the Hallmark Channel, which is Channel 70. If you want to get our complete holiday lineup at SiriusXM, go to SiriusXM.com/holidays and bring the holiday cheer into your home on SiriusXM connected devices and speakers. Guys, I thought I was tripping. I came here to the Mandalay Bay, watched some football, just the morning games. Went back about halftime of the second one, actually. So I guess I spent a little bit of the time in the afternoon. My back was feeling better. Thanks to the three of you for asking, by the way. And so then I decided to grab Max and take him for a walk. It's been a couple weeks.
Okay.
Max was happy. I came back, and for some reason I hit a wall, fell asleep watching, got a little bit of bite to eat, and then fell asleep just watching some TV. Wake up, and I'm seeing Floyd, Ryzen, Floyd, Japan, Floyd, some kickboxer, renowned kickboxer. I was like, what? What is happening? Of course, the first thing I do is go to MMA Junkie. This guy on New Year's Eve is fighting for Ryzen. What kind of a world am I in? Like, this is out of nowhere. And so right away you start asking questions, like, and they already had some conference call or whatever. I mean, like, this was all moving. Like, nobody even said he's in Japan. Like, I didn't know all this. And, you know, I'm sure most of you that are listening right now are going to catch any archives they have or replays. Okay, well, give us the details. I don't know. They didn't say anything. I think, Joe Rogan posted this morning, and I think I happened to be one of his first guys to answer. I just go, I probably think, knowing Floyd, it'll be boxing. It'll be 4 rounds. And the only twist is they might be barefoot. Or
he is not taking any type of strike that doesn't involve a glove.
No. He's still going to wear gloves.
No, what I'm saying is he's not taking a kick. He's not taking a knee.
No. That's what I'm saying. It'll be boxing.
It'll just be boxing.
And it'll just be an exhibition. But then I started thinking, Bryson's got money like that? What's going on here? Who's going to pay the guy?
Well, the first person I wanted to hit up was our Ryzen FF correspondent and Asian News MMA specialist, Dan from Oregon. So I'm hoping he'll call in and enlighten us later today.
Yeah.
I was thinking he must have been going nuts over like seeing this. Like, I told you. I told all of you. No, just kidding. But all seriousness, I don't know about you guys. It was crazy. As George said, we have every right to be like, what the F? And I agree with the takes Go said. It's probably, if this does come to fruition, it's probably not going to be a kickboxing match. It probably won't even be a limited rules match. It'll be a 4-round exhibition. I agree with all that, but tell me this, guys. Are we to the point with MMA news now where it's just like, I'm not even surprised even by what is our most surprising news we could possibly manufacture, something like this? It almost feels like it surprises me less than this would have been like 5 years ago or even 3 years ago, much less 10, right? Like, because we're just so, we're not just so inundated, but we're just so, just crazy news every week.
You said a word. You said a word that stood out to me, and it's if. And I think a lot of people still feel like if this actually does happen. But to give Mayweather Promotions their respect, they're actually pretty good at business. And I don't think they would go through all that.
They go out there, they touch, they feel, they poke, and then after that, the next step is drop a little trash talk on social media or make up a lie and see what the reaction is. And then from there, they start making calls. All right, hey, were you serious? I was just bullshitting. All right, you want to talk? All right, let's talk. What you got, you know?
Who I want to hear from is Habib's camp, because I want to know whatever that number
Habib
is.
And Tony's back on.
It cannot be that much. Like, I just don't see where they would get that type of money, and it's definitely not
it's
money
not a
that
$300, $200 million fight like Vegas
Yeah,
is.
no,
I'm
that's
thinking,
somewhere
I'm
in the
guessing
50 maybe.
For 25 or 50, he'll fly
For
first
4
class,
rounds.
go out there 4 rounds, and just pad his wallet.
And I don't want to put a tinfoil hat on, or I'm not, I try to do that really in general, at least I think. And I'm more of a guy, I want to wait till all the facts come out before I even get excited, especially, fanning the flames of something like this. I'm afraid it's going to grow, right? So almost feel a responsibility just to wait and see for the facts. But what I will say from chatter I gathered and putting, connecting my own dots, if you will say, is that where's this money coming from? Now, of course, people say, they don't have it. Is it in conjunction with other organizations? Are they teaming up? I saw someone throw something about the one guy's name in there. Of course, people were saying, oh, Yakuza money, all this stuff. I will say this, Floyd has talked about entering MMA in the past, and of course he's trolled us about fighting, but I would say the most realistic he's talked about it was fight promotion. He's always hinted about that, just like Dana, with his pet project of Zuffa Boxing. Floyd has had his own foyers and hints into that side of it, and the language that he used, or at least I believe one of the press releases that came from the press conference, indicates that he could maybe be getting a piece of this and maybe attaching his name to promote it going forward, which would kind of make sense as far as
Ryzen and Mayweather Promotions present.
I mean, it's a way for him to get in.
But I heard that the backdrop, well, No, I didn't hear that. Never mind.
I mean, you just think about it. It's a fertile time, with the Asian market kind of growing, MMA trades, streaming service. Everybody's kind of, it's almost like we had a little bit of a shakeup. Like MMA is still growing, but we kind of shook up the pieces of the board, and everybody's trying to reposition themselves now because, it's a little bit of a break in the normal format of pay-per-views and this normal thing we're used to from the UFC. Everybody's changing their game, and this could be something like that.
We'll have to let the details roll in. Let's do a live version of the highs and lows, guys. Try something different. If they're trying something different, how about us?
Okay. Sure. Highs and lows, you said?
Yeah, a live version of highs and lows. This is something you usually do post-show, but we're going to do it live today. So, Goes, we'll start with you. You know the drill. We'll go lows and finish up with a high. So, go ahead. Go ahead.
My low is actually what we were just talking about. Having to open up my phone and see all. It took about maybe 4 or 5 sources before I said, okay, this is actually going on. Floyd Mayweather's going to box in Japan. Or you can't even say it. You can't say box. You can't say fight because we don't even know what the hell it is.
He's going to appear in Japan.
Yeah, we don't know what that is. That's basically my low, just to be able to open something up and see something as ridiculous as that.
Did it piss you off?
It pissed me off, yeah.
Okay.
I'm not. Go to you.
Okay.
I'm so mad right
my
now.
low is Khabib threatening to quit, leave money behind and just quit. He doesn't want to show up to the NSAC meeting where you kind of have to take your medicine. Khabib, listen, you've been a respectable fighter, pretty much. Well, there was that occasion. Never mind. But listen, for the most part, Khabib has really, really, really been a quality fighter that the UFC is proud to market and promote and everything. He's done well for himself, represents himself well. And he slipped up. He lost his cool. He lost his temper. He went out there. No one got hurt. Hop on the plane, Khabib. Come back. Face the music. They're just going to tax you a little bit. You get the rest, man. Think about what you could do with all that money, for the next generation of Dagestani fighters that are coming, to help out your dad's gym. Don't become a diva and all of a sudden, let that piss you off. Remember, you're the one that jumped out. They're just doing their job. So that's my low. And sorry to get on that tangent where I'm scolding the dude. How about you, Dan Tom? What was your low?
I guess my low kind of ties in with Goz's in the sense of, it's Sunday when this Mayweather possibly fighting in Rizin drops. I'm trying to digest this crazy UFC 230 card, all the amazing storylines, all the amazing victories that happened from it, and all as well. Let's not forget the UFC's 25th anniversary is right around the corner. UFC Denver. It's a stacked card for the hardcores. Yet we can't keep up with everything. I feel like it's hard to give the fighters from yester weekend their fair due daps, if you will, and trying to preview and promote and give the deserved shine to the fighters coming up. And then we have this Mayweather possibly stepping into combat sports to fight Tenshin Nasukawa, kind of getting dropped on us. And yeah, man, I'm just trying to hit the alarm clock and wake back up and get back into the normal swing of things, how most of us we're used to it.
All right, finish up back to back. Let's go.
All right. Well, the highs again. We don't have enough time to unpack the highs, all of them from UFC 230. But one I will say, it probably won't get a lot of shine, and maybe it might not be considered a high to some. But the draw given to Lando Venata and Matt Frevola. Now, this is the, I believe, second draw within 3 fights, something almost unheard of in any organization, much less the UFC, for Lando Venata. That is a conversation of its own, and as far as him getting into these blood and guts wars, I'm not talking about that, though. I'm talking about judges actually giving the draw, actually giving those 10-10 rounds. I would like to see it more because wins and losses affect fighters so much, and if they fight well, I like to see that rewarded, almost like the Japanese style of MMA, where we're rewarding these people for a good fight. Now, that would kind of entail maybe a change in the win-loss structure, because with the win-loss structure, draws aren't really friendly to those. That being said, if we see more draws, it may bring that argument to the forefront for people like, I believe, us, who are for getting rid of that win-loss. Let's give these guys their pay up front. Let's just see good fights happen and trust that they're going to be taken care of both with money and by the judges.
All right, my high was the UFC 230, the stacked middleweight presence at UFC 230. It allowed us to spend the early part of the show talking about Souza or Adesanya, who got the title shot. Then we got to give a little bit of shine to Jared Cannonier, and I just think, it had nothing to do with the main event. But had the main event been Jacare and Weidman, those other fights also would have provided some sort of an insurance. In fact, it did. Rockhold was on that card. And then, pieces got moved around. So I wish the UFC would do this. Now, I don't want to see what happened at a UFC where it was, It was historic. They needed to do it once, but they had a UFC pay-per-view that had all heavyweights, including the late Shane Del Rosario was on that card. I don't want to see all that, but I do like it when there's at least 3 fights from one division, and you can just plug and play. We had a UFC 229 with Conor, Khabib, Pettis, Tony. You know what I mean? And I want to see more of it. That was my high. I want to see more of that. Goes?
We always talk about the bridge between hardcores and just casual fans, and I think at this past UFC, we saw that bridge kind of cross over a little bit more when they showed Ben Askren on the screen, a guy that most UFC fans don't really know. He got a huge pop.
He got some love.
And so that either means that place was packed with hardcores, or it means those casual fans that we always talk about are learning, and they're starting to...
They're reading the news.
Yeah, they're starting to get into it. And that put a big smile on my face, so that's my high.
And it put a big smile on Ben Askren's face because he hasn't gotten that love from the UFC. Hey, welcome, Ben. I think Dana still blocked him. He posted that at some point. I think last night or today, Dana said he unblocked him. Ben says he's still blocked. All right, there's our highs and lows, a live version for you today, brought to you by the MMA Junkie Radio team. We got to go to a break right now. When we come back, we'll have UFC champ Daniel Cormier on the show.
They were kicked off the set of The Fast and the Furious for being too loud and too good-looking. Once again, here's Gorgeous George and Goes.
All right, let's jump right into it. We got the champ on hold. Daniel Cormier defended his UFC heavyweight title this past Saturday at UFC 230 when he submitted Derek Lewis in the second round of the main event. He is also the #1 fighter in the USA Today Sports and MMA Junkie rankings. He now joins us on the hotline. What's up, champ?
What's up, boys? How you guys doing?
Not as good as you.
It feels good right now. I'm happy.
What? I can't believe it. A sneeze almost took you out of the fight on Saturday?
It almost took me out, man. That was horrible. You know, every time my back, which is every single time I'm in training camp, it's usually from something really small. But this time it was from a sneeze. Like, generally it's something like really small, right? Like the other day, I picked up a power washer. I was going to power wash my porch, and it threw my back out for like 3 days. This time it was a sneeze. It was so scary. Thank God the UFC had their rehab team around to kind of get me going again. And then my strength and conditioning coach is also very good at stretching and everything else, and he was able to run the stim machine on me later in the day to help break down all whatever I had built up in there. It was scary, though, boys. It was real scary.
You know, on the embeddeds, you mentioned on one of them, I could fight for another 3 years. But, of course, we know that you've given yourself a self-imposed deadline of March 20th, 2019, which will be your 40th birthday. And I was telling the guys, I bet you he will. I bet you the money will be too good and something will happen. But now I hear this story, and I can relate because I threw out my back about a month ago. And I'm thinking, oh, man, I don't know. Maybe Daniel is done. Maybe one more fight, and he rides off into the sunset.
Isn't it the worst? Like, when your back goes, the worst thing in the world, because you just feel like it's like taking things that you have on a daily basis for granted. Like, we all do it, right? Things that we take so lightly, when it's gone, it's the worst. Like, I broke my hand, and I couldn't, like, use my hand. I was in a cast. I was like, oh, this is so terrible. I wish I could just use my hand. Or if your ankle's bothering you, you can't walk. It's like, God, I just want to walk normal. It's like you take these things for granted. Like, if I just want to stand up straight. If I could just stand up straight, today would be the best day ever. The problem was, I just wanted to stand up straight to go fight in the heavyweight championship fight. It's just unbelievable.
Incredible. And another thing we have in common, the back injury, and I also weighed 251 this morning. So I noticed you packed on an extra 5 for this fight. Was that to meet DC, or sorry, was that to meet Lewis's size and girth and all that? Or was it because DC got a little sloppy in training camp?
No, it was just because, I mean, it was a short training camp, and also, like, I ate breakfast before I go in. I had a big breakfast with potatoes and eggs and, like, pepper sausage. It was, like, not like pork sausage, but, like, turkey sausage that Ian makes. I just eat and weigh whatever I weigh. I weighed in to fight at 246, 247, actually. I was 247 on fight night. But it was because I just didn't eat right as I was going to the damn scale. But I mean, to me, it was like, it's just a number on a scale. Like, what does it matter? It's just, I cannot be more than 265 pounds, which I won't be. Yeah. It's like, it's just a number on the scale. It doesn't matter to me.
It matters to the people in Vegas that put bets down, because then we start to wonder, oh, man, does he have a tweaked hamstring? Was he not able to get his cardio in? And, you know, like, we're hesitant on who to bet, so we're watching all these things. And those 5 pounds, just I was wondering, you know, what's going on here? But yeah, you made it look pretty easy on Saturday.
Did you? If you were worried about whether or not you should bet on me in that fight, then you probably should never bet on me. I mean, you should have been pretty secure.
It's too late to turn back the clock. I bet on you quite a lot, and I've done very well. This line was up there, and I really like you and Derek, and I thought I'm just going to enjoy this one as a fan. You know what I mean? Both of you guys are going in there a little bit banged up, so I just wanted you guys to go in there and just do the best that you could. Which, by the way, leads me to my last question, then I'll turn it over to the boys. Did they inspect your hand very thoroughly, you know, especially after Buffalo? You know, you got one over on them, so were they like fine-tooth and comb, or was it easy to get by with the hand?
No, man, they were squeezing on it, wrenching on it, making sure that I wasn't, like, wincing or anything. Seriously. They even made me do 3 push-ups on my knuckles. They're like, on your knuckles, do push-ups.
Jesus.
Like, okay. I haven't done... Yeah, they were just making sure that I was able to fight. Especially, I did an interview a while back saying that my hand was still broken and everything, but it wasn't. It was just painful on that day that I did the interview. And they just said they wanted to make sure I was okay. And once I did all that, they let me fight.
Wow. Crazy. Daniel Cormier is our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio, the #1 ranked pound-for-pound fighter in the USA Today Sports and MMA Junkie rankings. He holds the UFC heavyweight and light heavyweight titles. All right, Goes, and he just defended the heavyweight title on Saturday at UFC 230. Goes, what do you have for DC?
Daniel, you never underestimate anyone. That goes from the beginning of your career, and you talked about how hard Derek Lewis hits. And I started to think, all right, well, a lot of people think Brock Lesnar's next. He's a former champion. He's got a good wrestling pedigree, and he hits pretty hard. That being said, tougher matchup than Derek Lewis, or do you think it'll be an easier matchup?
I think it's tougher because he kind of cancels out the wrestling, right? I can't just go take Brock Lesnar down at will like I was able to with Derek Lewis. And he's big, and he's athletic and super fast. Also, he has a size 5X glove. So if he's able to land one of those strikes, it could be the end of the night. So I truly do believe that it's a tougher fight. This one was a clear path to victory. I've always done well against guys that have to just knock me out to win. I just feel like I'm good enough at avoiding strikes to just take that one big punch that's going to just put me out. So when there's a clear path, I usually will take it.
You've never struck me as a liar. I've always believed everything you said.
Mm-hmm.
And for the longest time, when you gave that date, I was right there with you, and I was saying he's going to stick to it until something happened on Saturday. When your kids had a belt on each shoulder, they're going to go to school on Monday, and people are going to go, dude, that was awesome when you were in that cage and your dad was there. Is there any way if anybody can talk you into going past that date? Could it be your kids?
I think my kids love the fights. They love the excitement of the arena. Now they've been to the last 3. They love that, but they also don't love the other side. Like, my daughter doesn't love the other side, man. She was in the press conference area waiting for me to go, and Derek went in there, and he was kind of in the same area as my kids. And my wife said she saw him, like, looking over there, my little girl, and Derek was kind of standing there with his head down, and she goes, Mom, and my wife goes, what? She goes, I feel really bad for Derek. He looks sad. Right? So, like, they got to see the other side. And I don't think my daughter likes that, man. She's very sensitive, and I don't think they'll be calling for Dad to even try to fight again. Because they also saw me on the other side when I lost to Jones. So they know the ups and downs of the fight game.
All right, let's turn it over to the fight analyst, Dan Town. Dan, what do you have for DC?
Hey, Double Champ. Congrats, of course, on the fight. I just have one question on the fight. The thing going into it, I was looking for, obviously the odds were heavily in your favor. Many picked you to win. But I was curious on how you were going to solve a certain problem. Derek Lewis likes to get up on people. He likes to turtle up and tripod up. And, his back is so slanted. Guys, even like a Gonzaga or a Nelson, black belts in jiu-jitsu, have tried to take his back. And it's like a trap. They fall forward. So I was curious to see how you were going to maybe do some, mat returns, get him back down on the ground. But, man, you end up being the first person to choke him. So let me ask you, you teased the arm bar and the embedded, but really, was the rear naked choke, was abusing him in that position? Was that really the plan all along, DC?
Yeah, I was going to choke him only when the submission presented itself, though. I wasn't going to rush it. That's why in the first round he gave his back a couple times and I didn't try to take the choke because that was just an out. I wanted to really kind of soften him up. One thing that really surprised me was that when he did go to his knees, I was able to collect his left wrist and even knock him to his elbow. But even when I knocked him to his elbow, he still was able to build himself back up to the feet. I knew I would have to take him down a couple times before he would just accept bottom position. And after that second takedown in the first round, I feel like he kind of was just staying there to the end of round 1. And then in the second round, once I picked him the ankle pick, I went to this knee control position that we do at AK Checkmate KC control. And when I gave him when I slide my knee in the middle, it doesn't allow him to turn back into me. It only lets him turn away from me. And when he did that, I was able to slide in my bottom hook, and then the choke was under his neck.
Wonderful.
Something we worked on a lot. Like my jiu-jitsu coach, Leandro Vera, is phenomenal, man. And he was very, very stern in saying, don't rush to submission. Only take it when it gets there. And right before the choke, you can hear him yell, him and Bob Cook yell, KC, KC. And when I went to the KC, then the choke was what was next.
Right on, DC. And that was a great explanation. Now, I guess my last one, I don't know if it's much of a question because I believe someone already asked you to give hints about, these possible ventures you keep kind of dropping hints at. So regardless of whether or not you want to give us a hint, can I maybe give a bold prediction and maybe you can tell me if I'm warm or close?
Okay.
All right. Well, you said, WWE stuff aside, you were hinting toward another big money opportunity that could, as much as you love the UFC and possible things with the WWE, you said it kind of eclipses those as far as the opportunity, if you will. So my thing is, I think Al Roker, as much as we love him, there's something about him. I think he's got some skeletons in the closet, and they're looking for a replacement on the Today Show, and I think they want a Daniel Cormier. Are we going to see you on some type of network kind of Today Show type of personality? I think we're seeing athletes thrust into these roles more and do well, and anybody who's seen you on a mic can't question your skills. Am I warm, DC?
Let's just hope that's a possibility. I'll say that. We hope that's
like
a possibility. But those are the things that we are all hoping for.
You guys heard it here first. DC says Al Roker has skeletons in his closet. Quote him. Just kidding, DC.
I did not say that. I did not say that. Don't you put that type of stuff out there. Somebody will take it and run with it.
That's true.
Wow. All right.
Wow.
Goes.
All right.
You had one more.
Yeah, I have one more. You're probably the most competitive person I know, whether that's in the cage, wrestling, video games. You're very, very competitive. And that being said, could you retire off of a loss?
Yeah, I could. I mean, because the reality is you're just going to keep chasing that feeling. Like, you'll win or lose, you'll keep chasing that feeling that you once had. So I do feel like I could retire if I was to lose a fight. It is what it is, man. People win, people lose. And as long as you're okay with everything. I just said it last weekend. I go, hey, my history in this sport is secure. I've done what I've done. So win or lose this weekend, I'm going to be fine. So I could have lost that fight and still felt okay. Luckily, I didn't know.
DC, what about one more thing here? No disrespect to your teammate, and I realize you play with fire every time you say something about the Dagestanis that may be looked at in a negative way. So I'm not saying it like that, but he's warm to fighting Floyd Mayweather. But honestly, as a boxing fan, I feel like you would give Joshua a tougher fight than Khabib would give to Floyd. Stipe at one point was throwing it out there. How come I haven't really heard you throw it out there much? And if I have, I guess I missed it.
I don't want to fight boxing, man. I mean, why would I want to go and fight these guys in a singular sport? I don't want to go try to fight some dude in the sport that he's the best at, right? That's like me asking Anthony Joshua to come and try to wrestle me or fight me in a mixed martial arts contest. You have no chance. Just as I would have no chance fighting against Anthony Joshua. So I don't want to go do that for nothing. Like, I'm not going to go and just fight some guy for nothing,
Well, no,
especially when I'm
talking, obviously, is there money out there that can lure you? And you saw how big this guy is over there in the UK. Wembley Stadium, huge fight.
No, yeah, but it's like, then what, though? Like Go said, like, I am ultra competitive. Why would I put myself in a situation where there's about a 99% chance that I'm going to lose? Like, I'm not going out there to just lose. I want to win, and at the end of the day, I don't think money is going to make me feel any better about getting my ass kicked, Like, I'm not doing that, man. Like, I want to win. Like, I like to win, and I just don't know if that's really possible against these guys. Now, I would do it if he said, he said, okay, after we fight, I'll fight you in the UFC. That'd be crazy.
Right.
Then I'd be like, okay, I'll go box you if you promise to fight me later in the octagon.
Right.
I'd want my get back, dog. Let me get my get back.
All right, my man. Hey, thanks for giving us some time here. We always appreciate that. Congratulations on your win at UFC 230. And enjoy the holidays. And 2019, we'll be ready to cover the last run of Daniel Cormier.
Guys, thank you so much. You guys have been with me from the very beginning, man. Like, just the very, very beginning. And I truly appreciate you guys. I remember King Mo taking me into the studio for the first time, and that I'll never forget it. So you guys always got time, no matter what I do. Even if I do chase down some of those opportunities we talked very, very about in short, you guys will always have some time. I truly appreciate you, boys.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
All right, we'll talk to you soon.
No problem, fellas.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.
There you have it. That's the champ right there, Daniel Cormier. Just defended his UFC heavyweight title against Derek Lewis. All right, we're going from one Louisiana guy to another one. Last names sound pretty similar, right? Cormier, Poirier.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of French history down in Louisiana. And as soon as Danny gives me the green light, we will hit up the Diamond, Dustin Poirier. How are we looking, Danny?
He's probably talking.
He's there and ready.
Oh,
He's there. He's ready to go. Dustin Poirier, one of the most exciting fighters in all of the UFC. What's up, Dustin? How you doing?
Good, man. What's happening?
Not much. I still thoroughly enjoy the relationship you have with your daughter. All that stuff you post, you know, all the fun you have on Halloween and all the hangouts you do with her. It's awesome, man. It's really, really awesome to see.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. She's the best thing, man, that's ever happened.
Yeah, a lot of fighters, you know, connect with their kids. I mean, I'm sure they all do, but you guys seem to really have something special, and it's great that you include her in your social media. Dustin, so the last time we spoke, you were going to head to L.A. To, you know, take another look at your injury and just see how serious things were. And you figured that maybe a few weeks could go by and you'd see what kind of an update you'd have for us. So that's where I wanted to start with. How's your health and how did that visit go?
Yeah, I originally went out there for a second opinion. I got seen by a doctor in Louisiana, and then I went out there for a second opinion, and I thought I was coming right back home, but I ended up, the second opinion was pretty much the same as the first. They thought stem cells was a good candidate to try that for relieving some of the pain and get some better range of motion from what I was having going on, and I ended up staying there for a week. I thought I was coming right back the next day, but I stayed there for a week and got the injections done. They put some a bunch of stem cells in my hip, and then they also put synovial fluid or something like that in my hip to make the movement a little bit smoother. And I feel great so far.
That's awesome. Is there a follow-up to that from you with any, whether it's your personal physician or the UFC doctors, or do you feel like you have now the clearance to start getting back into training, maybe even start a training camp?
Yeah, I'm definitely. There's going to be some more stuff to go through, but I'm clear to start a camp here in the next few weeks. I'm sure. I feel great. The thing is, I spoke to the doctor a couple of days ago. He called just as a checkup, and he said most of the time you see huge improvements from like 6 to 8 weeks out after stem cell injection. But my body's taken to it very well, and I'm feeling good already. So I'm excited to see in the 6 week mark how good I'm going to be feeling.
I got you. All right. Another thing is, now that there's been a shakeup to your division, Conor McGregor's kind of out of the way. Khabib is a champ who's defended his title, and Tony Ferguson also won on that fight card. How do you want to line up your next fight in regards to those two big names, which I would think, at least Dana's hinted to it, and I think most media, probably you would agree that they're next for each other. And with you having to, I think, the treatment you went was a couple weeks ago. So let's say you start to take the holidays off. In 2019, do you want to line up when they fight? Like, how do you plan on playing your cards? Because I feel like you're the next guy for them, and I don't know if you just want to wait for a winner or if you want to fight on the same card as them and be on the same timeline is what I'm getting at.
I haven't even I just want to do whatever I got to do to get to the title shot, whatever that I need to do to get there. That's been my whole goal this whole time. But, we'll see. I haven't spoke to the UFC about what's next. I know I saw some stuff. They were talking about they don't want to try to rebook the Nate fight. I don't know what's going to happen here. But I'll be ready to roll probably, I would say, end of January, early February. I'll be ready to roll.
Is that okay with you, or did it start to get personal with Nate in any way? I know that you put it on him, and saying that he's kind of what prevented things from escalating into you guys being the main event this past Saturday. So how do you feel about that?
Yeah, he did some. A lot of stuff goes on behind the scenes of these getting things in order. For fights, especially when the UFC's in a position where they don't have a main event, and then fights fall through and all kinds of stuff happen. But he messed up some negotiations that were going on with us being the main event and all kinds of stuff like that. But I'm down for whatever, Nah, this is nothing personal to me, man. This is business. If they want to make that fight, we'll see. They said they didn't want to, but if they want to, go back to that fight, then I'm down with that. But really, I just want to do whatever's going to get me to the belt, man.
Mm-hmm. And do you want to have a hand in deciding that, or are you just going to leave it in the UFC's hands?
I mean, when I talk to them, I'm going to say I want a title shot. But at the end of the day, they make the decision or they make the offer that I have to choose what's going to be next. They're going to give me the offer, and we'll see how it fits into what we have going on. But, I agree with you. You're right. Tony is next in line. And we'll see how all this shakes out. But I just want a big fight, somebody at the top, and I want to be the world champion.
Do you feel like you're one of their top 20 guys, top 10 guys in terms of entertainment? Because I do. I think you're a very entertaining fighter. So when you were putting something out, about fighters that were entertaining you on Saturday on Fight Pass, no less, not to disrespect that, but that's just a platform that not everybody has. And I'm thinking, wow, that's high praise. I would want someone like you chiming in on me. But do you feel that way from the love you get from fans and media? You get a ton of respect. You've put in your time. You've punched that clock. But do you feel like you're up there in terms of entertainment and one of the UFC's top guys?
I know I am. I'm a fighter's fighter. If you don't like to see me fight, you don't like fighting. Simple and plain. I put it all on the line every time, and I'm not top 20. I'm top 5, top 3. I go out there and leave it all out there every time.
Yeah, love that answer. All right, kind of set me in my place too. He said, "Like the top 20." He's like 5, 3. All right, yeah, my bad. I think you're right. All right, Goes, what do you have for Dustin Poirier?
Dustin, when you get to that shot, does it matter who it's against, whether it's Tony or Khabib? Is there a preference at all?
No, I don't. I'll fight any of them. I'll fight all of them. I just, my goal is to be the world champion. I've said it over and over and over, and I'm going to continue to say it, and I'm going to continue to act accordingly with that, whatever I got to do in training and decision-making that I have to do to give myself the best shot at getting in there with the belt on the line. There's nothing. I've had a lot of crazy moments in my career, but I've never been more sure of anything that if I get in that octagon and the belt is on the line, I'm going to leave. I don't care who the opponent is. I'm going to leave a world champion. I dream about it. I see it. I believe it. I feel it. I can smell it. And, it's just my destiny. I know it is. And that's just what's going to happen. So I'm just following the path until that point.
Dustin, we're up against the clock. Do you mind if we take a quick break and just come back with you for 5 minutes just to close up so I can give the guys their chances to finish their questions?
Yeah, of course, man. I just drove back in from New Orleans. I'm not doing nothing right now.
All right, cool. All right, so folks, SiriusXM audience, you're going to get more quality programming your way. We have At the Fights, the Luke Thomas Show, MMA Tonight with Misha Tate and RJ Clifford and AJ Hawk and Ryan McKinnell. It's going to be one of those busted open. You never know. That's why you got to keep it locked on Fight Nation Channel 93. This is just going to be a quick exit for us, and we're going to go and continue with some overtime on YouTube. It's youtube.com/MMA Junkie Video. We're talking right now to one of the top 3 most exciting fighters in all of the UFC, Dustin Poirier, and we'll be right back.
How I wish that there were more than 24 hours in the day. even if there were 40 more.
Guys are clear for overtime.
All right, Goes, what you got for DP?
Dustin, when this is all said and done, what do you want to be remembered for?
I want to be remembered as a world champion for the rest of my life. But when this is all said and done, I just want, people to know I used this platform to help as many people as I could. The fights were more than just a fight in the octagon. It was more than just entertaining, masses on TV and putting on great fights. It was about fighting for people in my community, fighting for a reason for people to cheer and get excited, a reason for people to get together, family in my community. I fight for a lot of things, for my daughter's future. I just when it's all over, I just want it's not going to be done in vain. All these years, all this sacrifice, blood, sweat, and tears, pain, everything that comes along with chasing your dreams as a fighter. I know it's not going to be done in vain. I'm going to have a lot to show for it when it's all over. And, I think my family and my daughter is going to benefit from it all. But I just want to be the world champ, man.
Dan Tom, our fight analyst, he's got something for you. What you got for Dustin Poirier?
Hey, Dustin. Obviously, nobody questions your intention on wanting to be the world champ. Nobody, questions that you'll fight anybody at any time. And if they were to announce that you were getting the next title shot, I don't even think anybody could hate on that when they look at your record, everything you've done. Unfortunately, though, deserving is not necessarily a word that is 100% bulletproof, and not always do the deserving guys get the shot. And kind of compounding onto what I'm about to throw your way here is we saw. Even on another aspect, not so much with title shots, but for example, coming in on short notice, a guy Jared Cannonier made a nice presence for himself this weekend, coming in on short notice, kind of just staying ready. And it seems to be the formula that we almost can't rely on things to happen fairly or as they should in today's climate, and that it almost seems like the guys who are staying ready almost can get a jump, a sneak attack, if you will. Obviously, you're just trying to stay healthy right now or get back to your baseline. Obviously, you deserve nothing but world title consideration. But does part of you think about that, Dustin, as far as like whatever they book, if I'm not part of it, the silver lining is I'm going to get ready for that date?
Yeah, dude, like you said, it's a crazy sport, and now there's so many events going on so often. There's more opportunities for that stay ready. Back in every month or so, stuff like that. But nowadays there's 4 events in a month, 3 events in a month, and there's a lot of opportunities to jump in and take advantage of people falling out and stuff like that. So at this point in my career, I would jump on a big opportunity if it made sense. But I would rather a full camp and do myself, give myself a fair shake at every fight, come in ready to roll. The guys I'm fighting nowadays are the best, the top. I think for a young fighter, it's very important to stay ready to go and jump on any opportunity you get. That way you can make those waves. But I felt like I put on the performances every time I'm out there. I beat the best guys, and now I'm just kind of waiting for that next call, and that's what I'm going to focus on that date when they give it to me.
I got you. And my other question up here is kind of unrelated, but I was watching some of your old fights the other day, and the commentators were saying that at a certain point in your life, you got up to north or at least 200 pounds. I guess, is that true? And what years was this for Dustin Poirier? What can we attribute that to?
That was probably, I was like 205, 208. That was around when I was maybe like 16 years old, dude.
Wow.
Honestly. 16 probably, yeah. 17.
Right
before I started, I started training probably 17. So right before I started training, when I started, I was about that size, I fought my first amateur fight at welterweight.
I love hearing stories like that. A former opponent of yours, Yancy Medeiros, kind of had a similar one. He came up from the heavyweights and was kind of just almost use MMA, and help get him down in weight. That's kind of similar story for you, from what it sounds like.
Yeah, I was blind to the weight classes and stuff. When I first started fighting, I didn't know. I thought I was going to be a middleweight or a 205. I didn't know. I just thought that's what I weighed, so that's what I was going to fight. But then obviously I got more educated on the whole system of how this thing works. And but yeah, I didn't start training for health reasons. I started training because I wanted to scrap, and then a byproduct of getting ready for fights was getting in shape and losing weight, and I finally got down to where I'm comfortable at now.
By the way, was 16-year-old 200-pound Dustin Poirier the one that used to snap the snakes? Is that around that time? Snap the snakes and.
No, that was the snakes way before that.
Oh, way before that. Oh, okay. Wow.
Oh yeah.
Well, what was the first age that you came across a snake and had no problem messing with it?
When I was younger, I moved from my grandmother's house with my mom out to a more country area, and then I don't even know what age I was then, probably 13.
Jesus.
Maybe around 12, 13, and that's when I got to that country area. I started meeting some people in the country and some friends out there, and that's when we started doing weird shit like that.
Damn, man. If a snake was in this studio right now, I would turn into one of those guys that does parkour. You would just see me jumping and doing the most incredible leaps you've ever seen.
Yeah?
Yeah, I just fear them. I don't even like looking at that snake that you just showed me right there, goes, whatever that is.
Trouser?
All right, one more thing, Dustin. So here we go. I got to word this right because I don't want you to trip. I think you could do well behind the mic, and I'll tell you why. In boxing, you got guys like Teddy Atlas, and then you got a lot of guys that have boxed, like fuck, I just blanked it. The guy that messed with McGregor, the Italian guy.
Paulie
Malignaggi, yeah. Who got a swag to their speech, all right? So what I'm not trying to say you don't speak English perfectly. I'm saying I really like the swag that you got when you talk about fighting. And you're very knowledgeable about fighting. You have a good look to you and everything. Have you ever thought of that and maybe branching into that? Whether it's concurrent with fighting like a Paul Felder or just giving it a shot, I think you do really, really good at it.
I appreciate it. My wife's been telling me this for years, man. I'm a student of the game. I study boxing, old fights. I study kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, MMA. There's not a televised fight that goes by that I don't watch live or replay, And this is just my business. This is what I do. I'm watching. I'm learning. I'm always studying, And there's nothing that I can't talk. There's nothing that I can talk about martial arts or about combat sports. There's nothing we can talk about that I know that I wouldn't be able to, talk with anybody about or explain to you about what's going on. Or I would love for an opportunity to show the world that, to speak, to commentate fights, or to host something, or just anything to do with combat sports in that arena.
I'd love to see it, my man. And you know what? Just to finish up with this, you don't have to wonder if you've already set a legacy or anything. I'll bet you there's a lot of kids in Louisiana and even elsewhere that watch your fights, that probably have a road similar to you, and you inspire them. And so I just can't see how in your neck of the woods, your home state, your hometown, all that, there aren't huge fight parties when you fight. You really have done something special and turned the corner these last few years. You were always an exciting fighter, but now you're like a superstar. So take it from a guy that sees a lot of this, man. When I look on MMA Junkie and it says Dustin Poirier versus at fill in the blank, I'm like, I'm in. I'm fucking in. I can't wait for that fight. So thanks for being one of those guys that just spills it all out there for us, man. That don't think that it doesn't go unnoticed, and we appreciate it. And I know that what you guys do is going to be something that's hard to turn back on. You know what I mean? Because it's going to be hard to get out of bed when you're 50. You'll get out of bed, though. I mean, you're a phenomenal athlete. But you know what I'm saying. You're going to be sore, just like them quarterbacks. Right. That, like John Elway, I think, says, I feel like I'm in a car crash every Monday after a Sunday game. But either way, man, we really enjoy how entertaining and how you put it out there for all of us.
It means a lot to me, man. And I'm going to continue to do it until I'm done, I think I have a good 4 or 5 years left in me. And every time I go out there, I'm going to give it all. Expect nothing less.
Yeah, that's what's up. All right, Dustin. Well, I'm glad you're feeling better. Hopefully you enjoy the holidays. And in 2019, we're ready to cover whatever fight you're ready to take on. So thanks, as always, for the time.
Appreciate it.
All right, take care. All right, folks, that's Dustin Poirier on the heels of Daniel Cormier, a couple Louisiana boys there. Fun show, guys.
Very cool.
Great job, Goes, booking DC. I'll take credit for Poirier. Danny, thanks. And Dan, thanks for staying a little bit of OT, as well as our audience. We really appreciate you guys. So we're going to get on out of here. We'll be back tomorrow with another edition of MMA Junkie Radio. For Danny and Dan and Goes, I'm George. Have a nice day, and keep it locked on MMA Junkie throughout the day. A lot of news still filtering in from all these shows from this past weekend. Goes and I were at FFC 33 on Friday. We'll talk about that tomorrow. CES had a show, so we'll get into all that, like I said, tomorrow. Go out there, folks, and be a champion.